At 41 years old, Prince William has finally addressed the emotional struggles he's carried since childhood, confirming what many had long suspected. In a rare and heartfelt revelation, the future king opened up about the deep impact of his mother, Princess Diana's tragic death, his battles with grief, and how those experiences shaped the man he is today. This video takes a closer look at William's journey from silent suffering to becoming a powerful voice for mental health and healing. Let's dive in. For decades, Prince William has remained composed, dignified, and dutiful, always presenting the image of a future king fully in control. But behind that polished exterior was a man carrying the kind of emotional weight few could ever imagine. Now, at 41 years old, William has chosen to speak openly about the grief and inner turmoil he has hidden since his teenage years. His recent revelations mark a profound shift, not only for the Prince of Wales personally, but also for the public's perception of the royal family. No longer just a symbol of tradition and stability, William is emerging as a relatable, emotionally intelligent leader, willing to confront the pain of his past. Much of this emotional burden stems from the tragic death of his mother, Princess Diana, in August of 1997. At the time, William was just 15 years old, still a boy, and the loss of the most beloved royal figure of her generation rocked the world. While the public mourned, William was expected to grieve quietly, with royal restraint. Over time, many suspected that the prince's silence masked a deeper struggle. Now, William confirms it. The grief was real, the trauma was lasting, and for far too long, it remained unspoken. By finally acknowledging these long-suppressed emotions, William is not only freeing himself from the expectations of royalty, but is also setting a powerful example. His willingness to confront vulnerability and mental health head-on is redefining what it means to lead in the modern age. The world stood still on August 31st, 1997, when news broke that Princess Diana had died in a tragic car crash in Paris. For millions, it was a moment of shock and sorrow, but for Prince William, it was something much deeper. His entire world shattered. At just 15 years old, he lost not only his mother, but also his greatest emotional anchor. In the years that followed, William would admit that her death left him in a state of numbness and emotional paralysis. He was unable to process it, unable to truly grieve in a way that made sense to a teenager burdened by duty and tradition. He and his brother, Prince Harry, were staying at Balmoral Castle in Scotland when their father, Prince Charles, told them the devastating news. The next few days were a blur of grief and public expectation. William was thrust into the global spotlight, forced to mourn on the world stage. Walking behind his mother's coffin during the funeral procession was one of the most painful moments of his life, a moment he later confessed he was unsure he could even face. It was his grandfather, Prince Philip, who gave him the courage, gently telling him, "If you walk, I'll walk with you." That one sentence helped a shattered boy carry the unimaginable weight of grief. But while the world eventually moved on, William never truly did. The trauma etched itself into his soul, quietly shaping every decision, relationship, and moment of reflection from that point forward. From the moment Prince William was born on June 21st, 1982, his life was anything but ordinary. As the first child of Prince Charles and Princess Diana, he was destined for the throne. But that destiny came with a heavy price, one that intensified after his mother's death. Suddenly, William wasn't just a grieving teenager. He was the future king. And with that title came the expectation of composure, strength, and silence. Royal duty demanded emotional restraint, and William, just a boy, felt compelled to uphold that ideal. In the years following Diana's death, William continued his education, made public appearances, and fulfilled ceremonial roles. All the while he pushed his own emotional healing aside. There was no space for vulnerability, no room for collapse. The world looked to him for leadership, and he felt pressure to perform. The pain didn't go away, it simply went underground. Behind palace walls, William fought to balance two identities, the public prince and the private son in mourning. He often channeled his focus into responsibilities and studies, a distraction from the grief he never fully addressed. In interviews decades later, he would admit that bearing those emotions only prolonged the suffering, but at the time it seemed like the only path forward. William's experience is a stark reminder that even royalty, with all its privilege and pageantry, does not shield one from human pain. If anything, it can make healing harder. The crown may offer status, but it offers little comfort when your world has fallen apart. Although his early life appeared charmed, Prince William's childhood was far from idyllic. Raised under the bright glare of public attention, he was also caught in the emotional storm of his parents' troubled marriage. Prince Charles and Princess Diana's relationship was famously turbulent, marked by infidelity, public tension, and personal heartbreak. William, the eldest son, saw more than most children ever should. He wasn't just a royal child. He became, in many ways, his mother's confidant and emotional support. Diana, known for her compassion and warmth, was fiercely devoted to giving her sons a grounded upbringing. She took William and Harry to homeless shelters, AIDS clinics, and even fast food restaurants like McDonald's, places where royalty typically never tread. Her goal was to teach them humility, empathy, and awareness of the real world. But at home, the environment was filled with conflict and sadness. Diana often leaned on William emotionally, referring to him as her little wise old man. While well-meaning, this role reversal placed a significant emotional burden on a young boy who was already under immense pressure. The divorce of his parents in 1996 only intensified the instability. William was left to make sense of a fractured family dynamic, while trying to live up to royal expectations. Despite Diana's deep love and care, she couldn't shield him from the chaos. When she died the following year, it felt like the final blow. The love he knew so deeply was gone, and the chaos remained. That early blend of affection and turbulence would go on to shape William's views on family, love, and leadership. The image of 15-year-old Prince William walking solemnly behind Princess Diana's coffin remains one of the most haunting and iconic visuals in modern royal history. Millions watched the funeral procession on September 6, 1997, their hearts breaking as two young boys, William and Harry, trudged forward in silence alongside Prince Charles, Prince Philip, and Earl Spencer. But that walk wasn't just symbolic, it was a moment of profound internal struggle for William. In later interviews, William revealed that he didn't know if he could do it. The idea of publicly grieving in front of the entire world felt unbearable. The pressure to appear strong while his heart was shattered created an emotional conflict no teenager should ever have to face. He was torn between personal pain and public expectation, a theme that would follow him throughout his life. It was Prince Philip, his grandfather, who offered a lifeline. Quietly and gently, he said, "If you walk, I'll walk with you." That simple gesture gave William the strength he needed. He chose to walk, not because he was ready, but because he knew he wasn't alone. Though William completed the procession, the emotional toll lingered. He later described it as one of the hardest things he had ever done. That brief yet searing experience encapsulated the impossible burden placed on a grieving child who also happened to be the future king. It marked the beginning of a journey through grief, resilience, and eventually healing, though that healing would take many years to fully begin. After the loss of his mother in 1997, Prince William threw himself into education as both an obligation and a coping mechanism. He attended Eton College, a departure from royal tradition. At Eton, William studied geography, biology, and art history, eventually achieving an A in geography, a B in art history, and a C in biology. But beyond academics, he found solace in extracurriculars like swimming and water polo, which allowed him to channel his emotions in healthier ways. He was respected by peers and teachers alike, yet many didn't realize the extent of the emotional burden he carried. After Eton, William enrolled at the University of St. Andrews in Scotland in the early 2000s. It was there that he met Kate Middleton, now Princess Catherine. Their connection offered him something he hadn't felt in a long time: stability and genuine affection without the weight of public expectation. He also benefited from a media agreement that protected his privacy during university, allowing him to experience a semblance of normal life. Still, emotional escape was never total. His grief traveled with him. Education helped him structure his days, but the pain remained just beneath the surface. Though his academic years helped shape his intellect and future, they also highlighted the unhealed wounds of his past, wounds he was still learning how to face. Despite his royal status, Prince William was never immune to the kinds of accidents and pressures that ordinary people face. In June of 1991, he suffered a severe head injury while playing at school. A fellow student accidentally struck him with a golf club, resulting in a depressed skull fracture. He underwent surgery at Great Ormond Street Hospital, and though he recovered well, the incident left him with a permanent scar. It was a sobering reminder that not even a prince is protected from life's unpredictability. Then, in 1999, William broke a finger while playing sports, another reminder of his physical vulnerability. While these injuries may seem minor compared to his emotional wounds, they came at a time when he was already under extreme psychological strain. His physical pain became symbolic of deeper, invisible struggles. Meanwhile, the media continued to scrutinize every move he made. As a teenager and young adult, William was hounded by paparazzi, constantly photographed and written about. The death of his mother had intensified the press's obsession with the royal family, and William felt that pressure acutely. He once described the experience as suffocating, a constant invasion that robbed him of the freedom to simply exist as a young man. These years were formative not just because of what he achieved, but because of what he endured. The injuries, the headlines, the lack of privacy, all became part of a life that was lived under a microscope. And with each headline and each scar, William's desire for personal space and emotional protection only grew stronger. Prince William's understanding of love and relationships was shaped by observing the collapse of his parents' marriage. The very public breakdown of Charles and Diana's union, filled with tension, betrayal, and emotional upheaval, left deep impressions on William during his most impressionable years. It taught him that love, no matter how grand, could unravel in devastating ways. As a result, he approached his own romantic relationships with caution, deliberation, and a need for emotional security. When he met Kate Middleton at the University of St. Andrews in the early 2000s, William saw something he deeply craved: normalcy. Kate came from a close-knit, supportive family, and their relationship evolved gradually, away from the royal spotlight. This allowed William to build trust and connection at a pace that made him feel safe. Their long courtship, spanning nearly a decade, was not just a delay, but a necessary journey of emotional readiness for William. He has admitted in interviews that watching his parents' marriage fall apart left him wary of rushing into anything. He was determined not to repeat history, and so he waited until he was sure not just about Kate, but about himself. Could he be the kind of husband and father he wanted to be? Their marriage in the spring of 2011 was more than a royal event. It was a personal milestone. It symbolized healing, stability, and the beginning of a new chapter. In choosing love with intention and care, William took a step toward rewriting his own story, one no longer defined by his parents' past, but by the future he was building for himself. Though Prince William and Prince Harry endured the same tragedy, their paths through grief diverged in deeply personal ways. William, the elder of the two, felt an overwhelming sense of duty after their mother's death in 1997. At 15, he already understood the weight of his future title and believed that strength meant silence. Harry, just 12 at the time, processed the trauma differently, internalizing his feelings until they hardened into detachment. William would later reveal that he and Harry rarely spoke about Diana in the years following her death. The pain was too raw, and the public nature of their loss made private healing nearly impossible. Both brothers put on brave faces, attended public engagements, and maintained the image of resilience. But internally, they were fractured. It wasn't until years later that the silence began to break. In separate interviews, they spoke about their struggles with depression, anxiety, and unresolved trauma. William described his lingering shock, saying it never truly faded, even decades later. Harry revealed that he had only cried twice since Diana's death, a fact that deeply troubled him in hindsight. Interestingly, it was William who encouraged Harry to seek therapy. That gesture underscored a truth often overlooked. Despite their differences, the brothers remained bound by their grief. Though their emotional journeys were not identical, the loss of their mother shaped them both profoundly. Today, their openness helps others understand that grief doesn't look the same for everyone, but no matter how differently it manifests, its impact is enduring. And sometimes, all you can do is walk through it together. Prince William's decision to break his silence on grief didn't stop with personal admissions. He used his platform to become a leading advocate for mental health awareness, a cause inspired by his own struggles. In 2016, alongside Prince Harry and Princess Catherine, he co-founded the Heads Together campaign to end the stigma around mental illness and encourage people to seek help. William has since spoken in powerful interviews about how isolating grief can be, especially when experienced under public scrutiny. He described vulnerability not as weakness, but as strength, a complete reversal of the message he internalized as a young royal. He acknowledged that it took him nearly 20 years to reach a point where he could talk about his mother openly. And even now, he admits some days are harder than others. The prince's work has gone beyond speeches and interviews. He helped launch Shout, a 24/7 crisis text service, and Mental Health at Work, a platform offering support for employees and employers alike. He has also participated in candid discussions with athletes, celebrities, and frontline workers about mental well-being, further normalizing conversations that were once taboo. By sharing his own journey, William has helped dismantle the culture of silence that surrounds mental health, especially for men. His advocacy signals a shift in how the royal family interacts with the public, blending duty with empathy. In doing so, William isn't just honoring his mother's legacy, he's building his own. One that's rooted not in distance and decorum, but in compassion and connection. For most of his life, Prince William was raised in a culture that prized stoicism, especially for men. As a royal, he was expected to lead with strength, show no weakness, and keep personal struggles behind closed doors. But over time, William has publicly rejected this outdated model of masculinity. In a striking departure from royal tradition, he has spoken candidly about the damage caused by emotional suppression and the need to redefine what strength truly looks like. In an interview with GQ, William explained that grief and mental health were once seen as taboo topics, especially for men in the public eye. Admitting to anxiety or sadness was often equated with fragility, but his experience taught him otherwise. Holding everything in only delayed healing and deepened the pain. By embracing vulnerability, he found resilience. William has criticized the culture of toxic masculinity that discourages men from seeking help, saying, if you were anxious, it was because you were weak. But of course, we all go through it. It's just that few of us speak about it. Through his actions and words, he's challenging that mindset and urging others to do the same. This stance is revolutionary, particularly within the royal family, where emotional reserve has long been a hallmark. William's honesty sends a powerful message that true leadership comes from emotional intelligence, not repression. He is showing young men everywhere that there is courage in confronting pain and strength in sharing it. In doing so, he is paving the way for a more compassionate and open-minded generation. Today, Prince William stands at a critical juncture, not just as the future king of the United Kingdom, but as a modern leader who understands that empathy is not a weakness, but a strength. His journey from a grief-stricken teenager to a compassionate husband, father, and mental health advocate shows how personal pain can be transformed into meaningful purpose. Now married to Princess Catherine and a father to Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis, William is determined to create a healthier emotional environment for his family. He wants his children to grow up in a... But William's empathy extends beyond the palace gates. Through public speaking, advocacy, and charity work, he connects with people from all walks of life who are navigating loss, depression, or emotional isolation. His willingness to speak from the heart makes him relatable in a way that many royals before him were not. As he prepares for the responsibilities of kingship, William is leading not just with tradition, but with heart. He's redefining what it means to be royal in the 21st century, choosing transparency over stoicism, compassion over distance. In honoring his mother's legacy and confronting his own struggles, Prince William is not just surviving the weight of royalty, he's reshaping it into something far more human.